Hey you, do you want to be woke?
I know I do. I wake up every morning thinking I would really want to be woke.
That's fantastic because I have a product that meets that exact need that you just articulated right then. It's a new book called The Babylon Bee Guide to Wokeness, and it teaches you how to be woke.
My entire life I've asked myself, how are these kids these days getting so woke? And I know that there's got to be an instruction book out there, but there isn't until now.
Now there is, because this book teaches you how to be woke so you won't get canceled, so Twitter mobs won't come after you and ruin your life. You get to know how to choose your pronouns, your gender. Buy this book so that you won't get canceled. You can order it today. Rush, my favorite progressive rock band.
Rush. That thing I feel when I read a good Chesterton essay.
Rush, the most famous, prolific, conservative radio host
Oh, you mean Limbaugh?
of all time. That's the one. And that's the one we're going to be talking about today. Rush Limbaugh.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about him.
Well, not him.
With.
Right.
Because if we had him on the show, that would break the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, especially.
Yeah.
So we were talking to, so I don't know how many people know, unless you listen to Rush, that he had, I don't know, what's his title? I mean, he was this call screener, executive producer, and it was the right-hand man to Rush for 30 years. He went by the name Bo Snerdley, but his real name is James Golden. And Rush, who was called the most racist, horrible man in America, this was his buddy who happens to be African-American. What do you call him? Is that the word you're supposed to
Black?
use? He's black.
We're just going to go with black.
He actually said you can say Negro, but I'm not.
I have not said it the whole episode because I don't want to get canceled.
But so
he's already crossed that bridge.
I'm done. I'm over. Well, I'm 10 years older than you, I think. So we talked to James, and it was great. I mean, this guy's
awesome.
He's a guy you want to sit around and have a cigar with, tell stories. He's got thoughts on everything. Just very jolly and full of, I don't know, heart. Like he's great. So
we're typically pretty bad interviewers. So when we interview someone and they kind of have that short, like canned answer, and then you're like, okay, I guess I have to carry this thing. A good interview can make that into a good interview. We can't because we're bad interviewers.
Yeah.
But with Bo, it was like, I just wanted to keep talking with him for hours.
I know.
It's like sitting on a porch with someone and...
Yeah, it was a conversation I would have liked to have had for about 2 more hours, I think.
Yeah,
it was
about 2 hours.
Especially in person, too.
And especially the subscriber portion, he really kind of just started giving this inspiring speech. And, I
think the best part was the subscriber portion. I'm not just saying that for the money.
Yeah. Without further ado, James Golden, you can also check out his new book, Rush on the Radio, where he talks about Rush. And he also has a podcast telling the story of Rush Limbaugh called Rush Limbaugh. The man behind the golden EIB microphone, which looks strange. The logo looks strangely like our logo.
Ours, yeah.
Sad.
Yeah, or you can just go to jamesgolden.com and just
all that
look
stuff
around.
All right, let's talk to James/Bo. Il Rushbo. All right, well, welcome to the show, James Golden. However, our understanding is that your pronouns are Bo and Snerdley.
That's correct.
We have
they, them, Snerdley.
They, them, Snerdley.
They, them, Z. They, them, Ziwi. Snerdley.
Ziwi Snerdley.
Okay, we're going to try to remember that.
So I'm curious, what was the impetus of that pseudonym? What made you decide to be called Bo Snerdley?
I didn't decide it.
Yeah,
I didn't decide it.
On you.
No, there were always... See, nobody ever remembers if there were other Snerdleys on the show before me.
Okay.
Because no one remembers any other Snerdleys. It's just me.
You became.
But there was Marvin Snerdley and there was Mervyn Snerdley.
Oh.
And they didn't last too long, right? So the first day I'm working with Rush in the studio. Now I met Rush the first day he came to New York, but I wasn't rotated on his show yet. I was. The arrangement was to go all the way back. The arrangement was that when Rush came to New York and was doing the show, he did a local show for WABC, then he did the national show. That quickly changed to just the national show. But WABC provided the engineer and the call screener. And so first there was this woman who was a flat out liberal. She didn't want her friends to know she was working on the show. So Rush named her Marva Snerdley.
Okay.
Marva didn't last too long, and then came Mervyn. Mervyn didn't last too long either, and it wasn't, anything else. So then came me. So the first day I'm there, I'm bringing in some stories that I think Rush might be interested in a few minutes before the show starts. And he looks up and he says, so you have to be a Snerdley. What Snerdley do you want to be? Well, I don't know. So I look on his desk. This was in the day. There was this thing before you were born, Kyle. You're old enough to remember, Ethan. It's called newspapers. Like they were real. They had like the news on.
Yeah, I used to deliver those things.
Right, those things.
So it's like the internet printed out? Is that the?
Yeah, it's like the internet printed out.
Okay.
Right.
You carry a bunch of them in a big sack on your stomach and you deliver it to people.
Okay.
Right, and they gave you money for it too. That's when news cost something.
Yeah.
Right. And so on his desk was a bunch of news. He used to cut out newspapers, articles, and all this stuff. But he had the daily news on there. It was to the back page. And Bo Jackson had done something or another because I just saw the name Bo Jackson. I said, oh, I'm going to be Bo. And of course, I didn't realize that 33 years later, I would still be Bo. And it's all good. And I loved it. And I love it.
It seems like you're going to have a lot of cool stories.
Yeah.
And, hanging out with Rush for so many years, it seems like you have a lot of cool stories. So we just want to say, if at any time we ask you a question or you're answering and you're bored or whatever, and you just think of a cool story, just stop what you're doing and tell us the cool story.
That's what we want.
That's all we're really here for is cool stories.
Okay.
You can, if you're in the middle of like talking about, conservative thought in 2021, oh, I got a cool story. And then just remember Cheetos.
We'll play a little jingle.
Cheetos.
We'll play a cool story jingle and we'll let it rip.
So, was there any element to the pseudonym to protecting identities, or was that a thing back then? For
the other people, it was. I didn't care. Okay. I never cared, and I took a lot of heat from some people. But see, the thing about me is I give heat back. So you bring it. So if you're going to bring that to me, then you're going to get some back. So I never cared about the anonymity part.
Okay.
But it came to be fun having a pseudonym also,
All right. Well, we'll try to keep that in mind and not bring any heat your way because
we don't want
any heat back.
Because that was. Yeah, I got a cool story.
Snot.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was at this fundraiser, right? So, so a few years ago, I went to this. It was at the Breakers. It was like this big confab at the Breakers, conservative meeting stuff. So I was there with I was going to speak with one of my friends who's a congressman, and I have very few political friends, but he's one, Louis Gohmert.
Okay.
So first of all, when we get there, I had a friend with me, and she looks at the picture, and she's like, "Who's that black guy over there?" Because they had it, and it was Ken Hutchinson. It wasn't me. It was like me, Bo Snerdley, but they had a picture of Ken Hutchinson. I'm like, oh, this is somebody on the staff must really think, they all do look alike. So we got over that really quickly. I embarrassed somebody, okay? But and she still has that poster, and she still rags me with it too. So we get in there, and I start making my remarks. And this little heckler guy starts. Now, I'm not used to being heckled, right? I'm kind of big, and I kind of, project a little bit. But this guy starts heckling me. And at first, I didn't know how to respond. I'm dumbfounded. So I let it go the first time. Second time he starts, and finally, I just looked at him and said, well, what's your problem? And he kept heckling me. So I went over to him. He was sitting down, and I said, look, I'm sorry, bad language alert if you have kids. Bad language alert. So I said, look, I don't play that.
Strawberry.
I'm respecting you, and I expect the same thing. I don't disrespect anybody when they're speaking. Why are you doing this? And he started to mouth off, and I said, I'll tell you what, you continue to do it, I'm going to kick you right here in front of all these people. How's that? And the audience was looking like they thought this was some kind of performance art thing because my mic was on. So the audience was like looking like, yay, oh, performance. Or something. And the guy just slunk away. He just like punked out. after I did tell, because I was serious, I was going to take it.
Donkey.
And my friend, he's like, you can't do this. Don't you realize you're in public? This is not going to go well for you. I don't care whether it goes well for me. I'm kicking his
Donkey
right now. That's the only time I've been really heckled at his speech, and it ended well for me. The guy left the room, and then we just continued. But it was kind of that was a fun story.
Yeah, it's a good one.
That's a good
That's
one.
exactly what we're looking for.
Do we have the story? Do we have the story counter up on the screen, guys? Is that 2 stories that we've got so far?
2 stories.
2 stories. Okay. All right. We're gonna try to hit a record here. All right. So a lot of people on the left and online, they portray Rush a certain way, right? Like if you've only consumed the mainstream media portrayal of who Rush was, you think he's like he was like a tremendous jerk or something.
Yeah.
So I mean, what was he really like behind the scenes? Was he a huge jerk?
He's a tremendous jerk.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
It's all true.
You heard it here, folks. Thanks for coming on, Bo.
That was a short interview.
And we're
Just
done.
kidding. He was one of the most amazing human beings that and seriously, he was one of the most amazing human beings that I have ever met in my life. Most people don't believe when you say, because he had this on-air braggadocio that was tongue-in-cheek, and some people took it seriously. But behind the scenes, he was the most humble guy, polite to a fault. I mean, seriously. And when you watch somebody for 30 years, you could tell whether they're a fraud or not. Mm-hmm. And so if you walked in and someone would bring him a cup of coffee, it would be, thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. No matter what, he was always spot on with manners, with courteous, with treating you well. Now, that doesn't mean that if you screwed up his show, you were going to get nice, courteous treatment, because you weren't. Okay, but I'm talking about in the way that he treated his fellow human beings. He was generous to a fault. And I really mean that to a fault. I have a story about that.
Oh.
Ding.
Ding.
So before, and you have to excuse me because sometimes I can't do this story because sometimes it really does get me and I get emotional about it. So before Rush was all of that, before he became this big national guy, when he first came to New York and the show was just getting underway those first few months, I wasn't on his show, as I mentioned that to you before. I met him his first day in New York. I met him as he was coming in to the ABC building on 6th Avenue. He was with Ed McLaughlin, who was then the president of EFM Media. That was the company. But before that, Ed was the president of ABC Radio Networks. And that's how they all, anyway. I worked, my job, I was producing other shows. And so I would be in the newsroom, gathering news most of the day, preparing stuff. And whenever I saw something that I thought Rush would like, because his show was so infectious from the word go, everybody knew it was different. It was fun. It was really something else. And something that was unlike anything else on the radio. So I would get stories that I thought were really cool or something that he might use. And I'd just walk him down to his office. He and I were on a friendly basis. I had met him the first day he was there. So one day I'm in the newsroom. If you've ever worked in radio, you know that unless you really hit big, radio's not the best paying career if you're and behind the scenes, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm in the newsroom, and I guess I'm not really aware of my surroundings because I'm talking to some bill collectors. I forgot what they were coming to take back. Maybe they were going to take back the car, or maybe they were going to take back something, right? So, I'm not aware that I'm being overheard. So I'm talking to the bill collectors. Get off that. A few minutes later, over the intercom, I hear Rush's voice. Hey, James, can you come down to my office? So I go to his office, Again, remember, this is not Rush Limbaugh, the multimillionaire. This is before any of this stuff took off. Mm-hmm. So I go down to his office. And he said, close the door. I came into his office, sat down, and he's like, look, I'm not trying to get into your business too hard or not trying to get too personal with you, but I overheard you on the phone. Is everything good? Of course, you're embarrassed. Mm-hmm. So eventually I just let him know, yeah, well, I'm having a little trouble making ends meet. And he says, I'm just curious, how much are you in for? I said, adding everything up, probably about $5,000. That's a lot of money to me then. I mean, you're making $30,000 a year before taxes in New York, and you're $5,000, and it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So he said, okay, he said, look, don't worry. Things are going to work out for you. Don't worry. I said, okay. Next day, I'm in the newsroom. Intercom, it's Rush. Hey, James, come down to my office. So I go down to his office, and he's come in, close the door. And he reaches on his desk, and he hands me this envelope. And he says, this is for you. And he says, I don't want you to tell anybody.
Oops.
And I'm like, what's going on? I open up the envelope, and there's a check in it for $5,000. And it was many years before I told, because he told me not to tell anybody, so I didn't. And for many, many years now, I do tell people that story. Because that's what kind of guy he was. He said, don't tell anybody. He said, I remember this. He said, this is not a loan. This is a gift. He said, sorry. He said, you're a good guy, and good guys need to have good things happen to them once in a while. That's who he was. That's who he was. And I'm telling you, there are thousands, not hundreds. There are thousands of stories like that. Thousands. With people, some of whom he never met, that he read something in the newspaper or he saw a story on TV. Kathleen talks about Cookie, talks about how he would call her. It's the audio. She ran the whole audio on the TV show. She was the first producer hired for the TV show, and then later on came with us with the radio. She talks about how Rush would call her and say he saw something on TV and he needed her to find out how to get in touch with those people because he wanted to help them. And so I'm very serious when I tell you, and all the time it was the same stipulation. Don't tell anybody. I don't want anybody to know. That's who Rush Limbaugh was. Generous to his soul. And so when you look at the charity work, too, that he did, like with Leukemia-thon and all the rest of it, those are not hundreds of thousands, but tens and tens of millions of dollars raised. A lot of it for research. That's apolitical. Leukemia doesn't care whether you're a baby or whether you're an old person or whether you're black, white, skinny, fat. It'll hit you no matter what. Doesn't care about your political affiliation. And there are thousands of people around this country, if not tens of thousands, who benefited from all of the money that was raised by Rush and his audience to help that disease, among many other charitable causes that he took up over the years.
So tremendous jerk is what I'm getting out of all of that.
Yeah, That's what you get out of all that, yeah. with an amazingly kind heart and great sense of freaking humor, but really quiet, too. When the show's off the air, you're not going to get much out of him. Because he had expended it all during those during those hours.
Right. It's a guy like that, and he's so portrayed as this monster by so many people, and so many horrible things have been said about him. Did that ever affect him in his, when you saw him? How did he handle that?
During the early days, especially, it did, because he didn't like he's talked about this on the air a few times over the years, that he didn't know how to handle this. The first time in his life, he was called these horrible names for saying things. Rush was the original cancel guy. They really tried to cancel him early on.
Yeah.
Louise Slaughter and some of the others in the House of Representatives were actually discussing a bill that became known as the Rush bill because they wanted to mute him.
That's clever.
But these names and so forth, at first, he wasn't used to these attacks. What do you mean racist? Nobody's ever called me a racist before. Well, that's the Democrat and the liberal playbook. So he quickly, after I think a period of trying to figure out how to handle it, came to terms with the fact that it was best for the most part if he ignored it. Occasionally he would say something about one of these unusually horrid attacks, but for the most part, he just ignored it and took it as this is part of the nature of the success that he enjoyed.
You brought up his sense of humor, and it seems like Rush really, the comedic element of his show and his personality, I think, is a large part of what elevated his show above, a lot of the guys that were just angry and screaming at the audience type stuff. I mean, how did that come about? And I mean, what do you think the role of political satire is on radio or just political discourse?
He was naturally funny. He saw humor in things, and irreverent humor. And so he wasn't afraid to go and to do it. I mean, he talked about things that no other conservative to that point had talked about, like the waitress sandwich with Ted Kennedy and Chris Dodd sandwiching that poor waitress and, dry humping her in La Brassiere, the French restaurant in D.C.
I'm a little too young.
Oh, you don't remember that? Yeah, that'll be a good story for you. Yeah, you should do something on the anniversary of the waitress sandwich.
Write it down, guys. Waitress sandwich. We're gonna Google it. I don't know if I should Google waitress sandwich.
Senator Chris Dodd, Senator Kennedy, La Brassiere restaurant. You'll find it.
Okay.
So he would make fun of it. He'd make fun of these guys. I remember early on in the show, we had this elderly lady call, right? And she was freaking crying, for real crying, because she loved the show and she was afraid. She come here. She's like, Rush, I'm so afraid they're going to come and arrest you. They're going to come and arrest you. Why was she frightened? Because no one had made fun of a Kennedy before. She had never in her life heard anybody make fun of any of the Kennedys. And here he was on radio doing it in the open. Mm-hmm. Now, little did she know that 30 years later, we'd have Merrick Garland come in who wants to arrest parents as domestic terrorists or whatever. But back then, it wasn't, you didn't get arrested for just making fun or people or opposing the establishment.
Yeah, it's like making fun of the Clintons nowadays. Watch yourself.
Oh, we had so much fun with the Clintons. Oh, indeed. Oh, yeah.
As a Christian, you know God's always there for you, but sometimes things in this life can feel downright overwhelming, and you just need to talk to someone.
That's right. That's why the online counselors at faithfulcounseling.com are there for you. Connect with a professional Christian counselor in a safe and private online environment. It's so convenient.
It is, and it's nice that you can talk to someone who shares your faith and values, people that specialize in depression, stress, anxiety, relationships, crisis of faith issues. You're not going to get that with an atheist counselor. I'll tell you what.
Right, and there's 4 communication modes: text, chat, phone, and video. You can start communication under 24 hours. Desktop, mobile, web, Android. Man, they got everything.
There's financial aid available for those who qualify. It's affordable, faith-based. So check it out. You can go to faithfulcounseling.com/BabylonB and you'll get 10% off your first month at that URL.
Yeah, why not get started today? Go to faithfulcounseling.com/BabylonB.
What was that again? Oh, that's right. It was faithfulcounseling.com/BabylonB.
Simply fill out a questionnaire to help them assess your needs and get matched with a counselor that you're going to love.
10% off. Check it out.
Did any of this ever come, people, vocally, angrily hating Rush, saying all kinds of stuff, but did it ever come to, in the real world, when he's trying to go out, was he attacked, or did you have people trying to find you guys, or did you ever have any interactions with that?
We were always security conscious, but not overly security conscious. I mean, I think one of the reasons Rush moved to Florida and out of New York, aside from the great weather, was so that he could have a somewhat normal life. On Palm Beach, he drove himself to work. He drove himself to go to restaurants, and he'd go play golf. He had a normal life for the most part. But he also described himself as a homebody and a hermit because a lot of his life was consumed with show prep and working. I mean, Rush was very often the first guy in the studio. And some days, if he would leave early, meaning within the first half hour after the show ended, if there wasn't a lot of post-production, if the three of us, two that hung around that were there all the time, Dawn Ramos, the transcriber, the stenographer, Brian Johnson, the engineer, and myself were in the studio with him for most of those years that he was down here in Florida after he went deaf, which is another thing, a quick aside. I mean, how amazing is this? Guy has the most listened to syndicated radio show in American history. It keeps growing every single year, with maybe a year or two where it kind of just plateaued for that year or two. But for the most part, it kept growing all the time. And he spent more years doing that radio show, that syndicated show, completely deaf than he did while he had his hearing.
Huh.
Remarkable.
Yeah.
Right. But anyway, he had a normal life down here to the extent that he wanted, but he was working all the time. If we hung around late, his printer, because he would remote print into the studio, he'd get home, that printer starts flying off. He's prepping for the next day.
I, too, like to be the first one in the studio.
Yeah, we saw.
Yeah.
How'd that work out for us today, huh?
What you didn't see is we didn't think Kyle was going to be on time, so we actually had a Kyle dummy set up here to start the show. He was going to swap out.
Yeah, that doesn't work on radio, but on the video, it would have been funny. So there was a song about Barack Obama that I remember from listening to Rush. I don't think I can say the name. Are we allowed to say the name?
Are we allowed? Can he give us permission?
Barack the Magic Negro. Yeah, all of those are fine words. There's nothing pejorative about that except the word Negro. But Democrats use it like Harry Reid said that Obama could talk that Negro dialect whenever he wanted to, and he was really good at it. He did say it. I'm not kidding. That was Harry Reid. And that was Joe Biden, remember, that said Obama was clean and articulate. The clean and articulate one. As opposed, I guess, to Al Sharpton, who was the dirty, inarticulate one. I don't know.
Yeah, I think one thing people don't remember about that is that it was based on an LA Times article that was written. It was a title written by a liberal called Barack the Magic Negro.
That's right. And that is, of all the parodies we did, and we did hundreds, Magic Negro is still my favorite one. Because, first of all, it's a childhood song that, when I was a little kid, I was, I had sang in the choir, and we used to have this show called, here's another story. We used to have this show called June Revels. And we always, you're a little kid, you have to go perform and everything. So when I was young, I really liked to perform. So I would perform at the church thing. I would perform at the school thing. That ended when I became the captain of the captain of the HMS Pinafore, and my voice cracked, and the whole audience burst out laughing at the same time. It was embarrassing, humiliating. Oh. That was the end of my stage career. But up until then, I had a lot of fun. And so we used to sing for June Revels. I remember it because it was really cool. And little did I know what these lyrics really meant. We used to sing Puff the Magic Dragon. Yeah. And so, and that song was always great, Oh, Oh, Puff the Magic Dragon lived by the sea. He lived in this cool place called Honolulu. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, so when Paul Shanklin did this and I heard it the first time, I fell on the floor. I laughed so hard. It was Barack the Magic Negro lives in D.C. The LA Times, they called him that because he's black, but not authentically. And see, that was the whole column. He's the Magic Negro who made white people feel good about themselves. But he wasn't authentically black because, number one, he wasn't American. He came here half Kenyan. And then on top of that, he had some white blood in him. And so he didn't go through the civil rights struggle. So he was kind of like this bourgeois white guy with brown skin. And the LA Times guy just busted him out on it. And Paul Shanklin, what they did, they just turned it into a song. They didn't, none of that was their opinion. They took what was in the LA Times column and made a song out of it. And the left went ballistic. We had people, some black people at our affiliate stations who heard the song and apparently didn't do any of the research because, you know, most liberals, you can never count on them to actually understand the full story. They just hear something and there's off to the emotional races, right? So they heard it and they flipped. All they heard probably was Magic Negro, blah, blah, blah. They didn't hear anything about the LA Times. And here's old Rush Limbaugh playing Barack, calling him a Negro, and he's Magic Negro with that. And they demanded that that song be stopped, that he never play that song again, or else they would quit. And that's the last I heard of it. I don't know whether they quit or not. I hope they did. Because it was fun. We never stopped playing it. It was hilarious. They still come with those tactics. You hear about my man, I was reading about this morning. This guy, he's a radio host on Sirius or unserious or not serious. But anyway, he has a sizable reputation too. And I mean, a good guy, he has a good reputation. But he's going on a hunger strike, he announced today, until the John Lewis Voting Act gets passed and signed into law by Joe Biden. I read that. I'm gonna do that later on when I do my show.
Okay.
Why would you announce you're going on a hunger strike the week before Thanksgiving?
Doesn't seem well thought out.
I mean, of all the times in the year, right? Why would you say that? You wait till after January. Christmas is over, Thanksgiving's over. Or if you really want to play it safe, wait till after the Super Bowl is over if anybody's still watching the NFL, right? And then you go on a hunger strike. You go on a hunger strike in early February, March. Nobody cares. Nobody's going to even see if you're lying. If you go on a hunger strike now, everybody's going to be checking you out at Thanksgiving time. I bet you he's going to eat something. I bet you this is not going to last. And you know they're never going to sign this bill. Right. Because Joe Biden and the Democrats, here's the third little secret, they don't care about black people. They don't care about black people voting. They don't care about none of that stuff. It's all just for show. The same way they don't care about Hispanics, right? And if we ever need, y'all have Hispanics watching this thing?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
My wife's Hispanic, but she doesn't watch
Good.
it.
Make her watch this.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. I don't say make. No, I'm sorry, wife.
I can't make her do anything. Not make her.
Yeah, we don't. Thank you. Right answer. We don't make you people do anything.
I didn't say you people. You said you people. I didn't say that.
Boy, he's really backtracking. She got him.
I love you, honey.
Yeah, I love you. So I love it because the Democrats do the same stuff over and over again. And it's like everybody forgets it, and then it's like Charlie Brown and that stupid Lucy with the football. Every year it happens the same way, and they forget it. So remember when Obama came to office? My Hispanic friends, I don't have a Hispanic wife. I wish I did. I wish I had a wife. I wouldn't be so lonely tonight. Anyway. Do
you want to unpack that a little bit?
No, we don't want to touch that.
Okay.
Literally or figuratively. Anyway. So, so when Obama came in office, right, the Hispanics were like, yay, amen, finally, a not racist Republican. They remember, go back and remember in your mind, remember all that stuff about, si se puede, si se puede, si se puede. Yes, we can, right? Okay, so he gets in office, si se puede. So si se puede gets in office, and then he's got the Democrat House, he's got the Democrat Senate, he's got the White House. This means politically in the United States, for those of you that went to public school and don't know how our system works, this means that they could pass any kind of legislation they want to. Republicans don't mean squat. They're meaningless. They might as well go to the outhouse and sit down there all day and do what they do anyway, right? So what do? They passed Obamacare. In the dead of night, it took them all the time. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Lie. We're going to trade $2,000. Lie. All that stuff was lies, but they passed it. And what did they give the Hispanic people that said si se puede and showed out for thousands and thousands and thousands of votes to vote for Obama? Y'all got nothing. 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 And then they said, well, we had to pass Obamacare. And the Hispanic activists were all mad and everything. They're like, y'all had the whole thing and you didn't do anything for us. And then they said, okay, no, we got you. We got you next time. We got you. Just, oh, I'm sorry, we got kicked out of office. We can't do it now. And then they started talking, when Republicans got in office, they started saying, the Dreamers, we have to do something for the Dreamers. The Dreamers need our attention right now. We have to do something for the Dreamers. Poor kids came here. Their parents drugged them over the border. They didn't even know they were coming here illegally. And now they have nowhere to go, and we're going to help these people, right? Okay, that was all during Obama. That was all during the Trump years. We're going to take care of the Dreamers. Joe Biden gets elected. Joe Biden's got the House. Joe Biden's got the Senate. They have the White House. They can pass anything they want to. They don't need Republicans. They sent the Republicans back to the outhouse. So what did the Hispanic people get from Joe Biden? Y'all got nothing, because now they're working on an infrastructure bill. Oh, yeah, we got to fix roads and bridges for $1.2 trillion, but we're only going to spend $100 billion on it. And the rest of the money we're going to give away in slush funds. But don't look over there. We are then going to do Build Back Better. And we're going to have something for the Green New Deal, and we're going to have something for everybody but the Hispanics, unless you come here illegally, and we might give you $400,000 a piece, but that ain't never going to happen because everybody's going to raise so much hell we'll never be able to do it. And what did the Hispanics get again? Nothing. They are doing it to you again. All that si se puede crap, all that, oh, Joe Biden, we love you crap, what do you get out of it? Zip, zero, nada. And they're not even talking about the Dreamers this time. That'll come when a Republican gets back in office and they need to have a racist again.
I wish we could find something that you're passionate about to talk about. It's hard to get you going.
Yeah, me.
But we'll keep trying. You were the official Obama criticizer.
That's right.
Were you not? I
was.
Can we ever bring you in to criticize, I don't know, Kamala, or can you just
still like criticizing Obama.
Yeah, Obama.
Obama showed up. Where did he show? He went to that Clinton hat, McAuliffe. He went down to Virginia.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And he's so lazy. And no, for you people that are ready to get twitchy out there and get all upset, I did not say shiftless and lazy. I only said lazy. He's so lazy. The only thing he did was come out and just start doing it. Well, all these right-wing people, went to school that we don't know what they're talking about. They're lying pretty much about critical race theory, and these are really not good people. Look, there's nothing wrong here. Please elect my friend. Okay, so now dig this. I mean, this is serious, right? You have in Loudoun County, Virginia, you had this girl. First of all, this really happened. And it's no joke. Man's daughter goes to school. She goes to the bathroom. In walks a guy in a skirt because he's so, quote unquote, gender fluid. Well, he rapes and sodomizes this girl. Okay. Then the guy goes to a school board meeting to complain about it. They tell him, your daughter wasn't raped. Nothing happened to your daughter. There's a police report on file about it. The school board is going to sit here and tell this man, no, didn't happen. We're going to erase it. He gets mad. They bring in the SWAT team, what it looks like a SWAT team. It wasn't a SWAT team, it was the cops. And they dragged his ass out of there. Literally dragged him out. Dragged him out of the meeting. Because he was irate. Because his daughter had been raped and sodomized in a bathroom by a guy wearing a skirt who's gender fluid. Claims to be. Okay. Parents get upset and they say, we don't like this. We don't like what's being taught in these schools, number one, with all this race stuff. Teaching these poor little white kids that they're born evil because they have less pigmentation in their skin than black people and Indian people and Chinese people and Asians, and white people are evil. White parents don't want their kids taught that nonsense. So they go to school and they say, we don't like this. But then Joe Biden's head of law enforcement, our illustrious Merrick Garland, who thank goodness is not on the Supreme Court. Thank you, the turtle, Mitch McConnell. Merrick Garland says, well, these parents are to blame because the National School Board Association gets mad. They write a letter. We don't like this. We don't like these parents coming here complaining to us. Merrick Garland says, I'm going to get the FBI and we're going to come out in there and we're going to make these parents, we're going to treat them like they're domestic terrorists for asking questions about their kids' education. This happens in America. And so now we're in Virginia in the gubernatorial race. What does Obama do? Obama comes to town. He doesn't look at any of the facts. Excuse me, I got to do a Rubio.
Okay.
We'd encourage our listeners to watch the video version here. I guess he just chugged an entire bottle. Oh, he's still going.
He's still going.
Yeah.
Gotta hydrate.
You gotta hydrate. It's important.
Okay, got to do a Rubio. Okay. So.
What is a Rubio?
You remember that? Like I don't think he knew the camera was on him, and he just started chugging his water right before his speech. We'll do it side by side. When you do your Rubio, we'll have these guys put the Rubio.
We'll compare. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. So Obama comes to town, and he doesn't look at the facts or anything. He just assumes that the parents are wrong, and this is what he goes off with. Joe Biden comes to town and does the same thing. Now, to me, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. To me, that's just lazy. You didn't do your homework. Because if you did your homework, there's no way, especially being the parent of two daughters, that you would think that this situation is okay. And the voters in Virginia weren't buying it. It didn't fly. The right thing was done. And Glenn Youngkin and Winsome Sears won that race. But it was just sheer laziness on the part of Obama. So there's my Obama criticism. He's lazy. Not shiftless and lazy. That's lazy.
Could you just give us blanket permission to criticize any black Democrat?
Oh, you please, by all means, help yourself. But that permission comes with something, though.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, because when you do it, they're not going to care about me giving you permission. They're going to show up at your house. They're going to show up at where you work. Because in this country now, you are not allowed to criticize liberals to their, especially white people criticizing liberals. Oh, no. Have you been watching what's going on the cable news channels with all these angry black women that are making statements that if any white person made it, they'd be thrown off the air immediately? Have you not been seeing all this stuff? Like the other day, there was a guest on PMSNBC, and she said that all white people like to shoot their guns at black people more than they care about anything else.
What?
And this is on NBC, what used to be a real network.
Uh-huh.
And then you have, and these statements go on all the time. You had this professor, Eric Dyson. I debated him once on some show. Eric Dyson was criticizing some black guy who he said, conservative, was a white. He was a black, he had a black body, but out of his mouth came white thoughts.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is real, right? Now, it's not the first time we've heard this. There were other attempts in history. We had the famous purity test back in the 1940s. Different country, horrible outcome then to that kind of naked racism. But it's alive and well at the Democrat Party. So, yes, I will give you totally go out and do it. But that's not going to stop them from coming after you with their mouth. They even follow their own people around. Look what they did to that poor old Kirsten Sinema, following the woman into the bathroom with tape recorders, right? And then you had Maureen Dowd, who I love. Maureen Dowd, Washington Post, makes a big deal of New York Times, I'm sorry. One or the other doesn't make a difference. Anyway, Maureen Dowd wrote a column about Kirsten Sinema. They're all ticked off at her because she didn't go with the progressives on this deal, on this spend $3 trillion on welfare deal. And she starts pointing out that Kirsten Sinema's bisexual and wears nice clothes. And this is now political commentary from the New York Times. She's a bisexual and she has a really nice wardrobe. Go figure. And you know what? She's not, for a Democrat, she's not bad looking either.
You want to expand on that a little bit, or?
No.
Okay.
Just look at the pictures. They'll tell you all you need to know.
Well,
look at the pictures of all of them.
Okay.
You'll see what I mean.
I'll do that right now. You know what the worst thing in the world is? It's when you're laughing at something and really enjoying it and you're not paying any money for it. That sucks. You feel really guilty. You're like, man, there's all these people that are like giving their lives to making this stuff, and you know that's their whole job, and I didn't even give them any money for it. Now you can give us money. You can become a Babylon Bee subscriber and ease that guilty conscience. Go to babylonbee.com/plans, and for a limited time, you can insert the promo code podcast, and you get 10% off. It's not 7%, it's not 8%, it's not 9%, it's not 11%, it's not 12%. It is 10% off your subscription. So go to babylonbee.com/plans and subscribe. That's what enables us to continue making all the amazing content that you enjoy 24/7 right into your brain.
Well, we're getting into the psychology of James Golden here and the way that you think, and to do that further, we went into your Twitter feed. We found things that you've shared. We wanted to know what inspired this. For instance, you shared the story: Mormon woman is happily married to her gay husband.
Yes, the changing world. This is a new world that we live in, and I just want to help people like me who don't understand it also not understand it.
It's appreciated. We got also pigeon flies into home and snuggles with Labrador.
Now that I love. Now see, look. We need more diversity. And we're not going to get more diversity with species just messing around with their own species. We got to have cross-species diversity.
I like it.
I don't want to take that too far, but yeah.
No.
A woman goes on a date with her dead ex-boyfriend. So mortality.
Yeah.
Diversity. Yeah.
That was actually a really interesting story. in ways that I can't explain to you.
Mm-hmm.
But she did. No, what she did was go back through. At the time that he died, she couldn't process it. So now she can process it, the death, differently. And so she went back through some of the memories, and actually it's a very read it yourself kind of story, because no matter how I explain this, you're never going to understand it.
Inmates sue for torture after being forced to listen to Baby Shark for hours.
You know what? I had empathy, because anybody in our generation, that was like if you were forced to listen to that Barney song, and you can imagine somebody like Barneying you for hours and hours. That Baby Shark song has the same thing. It is torture. And so, yes, we definitely need Merrick Garland should be looking into that. That is torture.
Men's bathroom at Cornell University stocked with menstrual products.
Is it menstrual? I thought it was another word. Is menstrual spelled with an X or something?
Menstrual.
Yeah.
Menstrual.
Mixintral.
Oh, yeah. You can't have the word men in there.
Yeah, they don't like men. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Themstrual.
Yeah. This is what it's come to. Let me tell you something. Can I just tell you something? You guys, you young guys out here, please listen up. Listen up, because I'm only going to say this once to you. Right now, if you're 100% male, if you're 100% red-blooded American male, the world is your oyster. You got all these guys out here who want to be them, they, Z, he, you two, and all the rest of it. You got all these other guys out here who are gay. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying. But they're gay and they want to be gay. You got a whole nother set that want to be transgendered, and they're transgendered. Nothing wrong with that. Just saying.
Yeah.
Right now, if you are a straight guy, there are so many women out there who would love to meet you. Don't be a jerk, and you can have the entire world.
We'll keep that in mind.
As two married men.
We're married, not to each other.
Yes.
But yeah.
We did both marry.
Apologize to your wife for even thinking that.
Yeah. Okay, I will. We got one more story you shared. Hot Instagram model claims life is hard for beautiful people.
Yeah, I felt sorry for her. Did you see the picture on that one?
I didn't know.
She thinks she's terribly hot. She's one of these malnourished, but she's got little boobs sticking out and things. And so she's got some hair and some makeup, and she thinks she's just so hot that she put out there how difficult her life is because she's a hottie patati. The good news, little hotties of the world, all you little hotties of the world, the good news is this: stick around. You're going to get old too, and your world's never going to be the same.
Yeah, this too shall pass.
All right. Well, we are going to move into our subscriber exclusive segment now. We want to encourage everybody once again to check out the new book, Rush on the Radio, in our subscriber.
We didn't talk about Rush a lot.
Yeah, well, we're going to get some more information
more
here.
Rush talk.
In the subscriber portion, we're going to see who Rush really was.
Yeah.
Okay.
All that stuff. And let's do it. Are we ready?
I'm ready.
Coming up next for Babylon Bee subscribers.
Do you ever have celebrities or people reach out and go, I actually really think you're right about all that stuff, but don't tell anybody.
So I'm so happy you answered that. You asked that question.
What do you think about critical race theory? Do you like it?
What is it?
I don't know. I thought maybe.
Has being Bo Snerdley, the right-hand man of Rush Limbaugh, had an impact on your relationship with other people of your own race?
Oh, sure.
Enjoying this hard-hitting interview? Become a Babylon Bee subscriber to hear the rest of this conversation. Go to babylonbee.com/plans for full-length, ad-free podcasts. Kyle and Ethan would like to thank Seth Dillon for paying the bills, Adam Ford for creating their job, the other writers for tirelessly pitching headlines, the subscribers, and you, the listener. Until next time, this is Dave D'Andrea, the voice of the Babylon Bee.